Guys, I realized I forgot to say this in the video. So as a preface, all of this content is coming from the YouTube channel Fake Lore and the video titled 2 Hours of Fake Geometry Dash Lore. So go check that out. That's the original, and it's definitely much better than this video. This video is also cut for your viewing pleasure, so please enjoy. Hello, everybody. I'm JD. I'm a data analyst at one of the top universities in the country, and today I'm going to be going over some historical videos and fact checking them for you guys to make sure that you only get the most pure information that there is out there on the internet. So let's get started here.
With all of these spikes in his arena, it's a very sad story because Joe's head was square. When people's heads, were very circular or oval in shape.
This is true. People's heads are usually not square.
Joe instead had this square head. Everybody saw, and this is called "Can't Let Go." Another great metaphor for Joe's feelings at the time. He can't let go. He has to have hope. He has to have the hope that eventually he will be let out of this constant cycle of torment. In a King Harold's court.
Okay, so let's pause here and talk about this for a bit. So it is commonly brought into question, why did King Harold torture Geometry Dash? Well, the answer is it's not quite as simple as the original creator may have led you to believe. The game's sole purpose is not to talk about hope and the human will, but it's also to talk about a lot of religious and conspiracy ideas, which is that the reason that Joe was originally imprisoned by King Harold was not only because he had a square head, but if you look at the game, you can see that he does jump over triangles and he does exist as a square. So if you know about the ancient pyramids of Giza, there are pyramids in Egypt and they are triangles. And obviously this is the game adaptation of a real story, with obviously a play adaptation in the middle and a comic book series that we don't need to talk about. But obviously these pyramids, these triangles, are actually pyramids that have been flattened down into two-dimensional shapes so that they fit in the game. However, when the pyramids were supposedly brought here by aliens, Geometry Dash was one of the things that the aliens foretold as being a very powerful person. As you can see, there are some hieroglyphs that used to exist in Egyptian temples that look like this. So what many people don't know is that among the temples, there were also several squares of Giza, and they did look very similar to Joe. Therefore, the religion that formed around Joe and the idea that Joe was prophesized to be able to jump over the pyramids and therefore overtake the alien knowledge that was used to build these pyramids in Giza, that frightened King Harold quite a bit, which is why he wanted to torture Joe. He wanted to show people he is not indomitable. He is not a special character in any way. He is not part of this bloodline of squares that are known to create big differences in society. He's just Geometry Dash. However, the point of this game is to show, no, he's not just Geometry Dash. And then a question arises, which is, in beating these levels, is Rob Top supporting the conspiracy that the pyramids were made by aliens? Let's get back to the video.
Tension between lore theorists on Geometry Dash. We don't really know why this level does truly exist. I do believe that it is because of Stephen Hawking and Jeffrey Epstein, but I digress. We may as well just get on with the main story here.
Okay, let's talk about this a bit. So yes, this is true, and also Geometry Dash has been played by several characters in modern media that people may just not think about because they don't know to associate Geometry Dash with these things. So here is a something that you may not know necessarily, which is that the fast food company Wendy's is actually in support of this idea of anyone can be anything. So this is actually a very good idea held by this company. And why do I say this? That is because obviously Geometry Dash was a square head person who had to jump over spikes in King Harold's court. And of course, this was a very traumatizing experience. However, he served as a sign of hope for the people, and people kind of fed off of this continued perseverance of Joe, which is why Wendy's now serves square burgers instead of normal burgers. It is to pay homage to Joe, and by eating these burgers, you are kind of taking in that essence of hope. So every Wendy's burger represents a little bit of hope. This is something you may not have known. Let's get back into it.
Demons do not continue, as in these ones. Like, look here, we have the red face and then the purple face for a few, and then we go to demon and it goes back down to the purple face. So we know that in some way here Joe has calmed down his mental psyche to not see the demons inside, and instead to sort of calm himself down throughout these next few levels to help him understand, to help him escape his crutches.
Okay, let's talk about this a little bit. All right. So part of the reason that this is so important in Joe calming down as he had to jump over spikes, obviously this was a very painful process and it was very taxing on him, both physically and mentally. And this is kind of where we need to start talking about how this is connected to several revolutions that were going on around the era of Joe and how he influenced these ideas. So, as some people may know, in the shop in Geometry Dash, obviously named after Geometry Dash, you need to use keys to unlock several things. And this is where, Rob Top got a little bit creative in his design process, which is you need to unlock, John Locke, and ideas of enlightenment. Obviously, the three fundamental rights that every person has. This is written by John Locke and also reflected by Geometry Dash. So in the shopkeeper, when you use a key to unlock an item, that is a symbolic way of using your natural rights to preserve yourself as a person. That is what Rob Top was getting at here. Let's go back to the video.
A part of the whole story, really.
Okay, let's talk about this a little bit. So you may wonder, why did I pause there? There was no commentary going on, and that is just because the original creator left out some key details. So when you enter the duel section, you may notice that the other block turned purple. Why is purple a significant color? Well, first of all, it's a mix of red and blue, which are two primary colors, but that is not as important as how it is used in modern media as a reflection of this. So many of you may be familiar with the purple guy from Five Nights at Freddy's, and what you may not know is William Afton is a rewriting of the original character Joe Petrie Dash, who was Geometry Dash's cousin, who was also in the court of King Harold jumping over spikes. And why does this matter? Okay, well, Joe Petrie Dash is not a bad guy, but at the same time, his mere existence is putting into threat the existence of Geometry Dash, who is competing against him in a spike race. Therefore, Geometry Dash, symbolizing human hope and perseverance, Joe Petrie Dash can not directly but indirectly be used as a foil and be used to represent evil. Therefore, William Afton's role as the purple guy in Five Nights at Freddy's is a rewriting of the original character of Joe Petrie Desch, however, with kind of an evil spin on it, making him into an anti-hero. Let's get back into it.
I'd say I'll try finish this in one attempt. I truly am going to try that for you guys.
Geometry Dash.
Okay, lastly, I just want to pause here because I find it kind of crazy that the original creator did not cover this, which is the fact that you hear that voice saying Geometry Dash, Geometry Dash, very slow down. And why is this important? Okay, this goes back to the religious ideas that we were covering over earlier, which is that Geometry Dash was sent as a prophecy by the aliens to show us that we would someday overtake their technology and become a Type 2 civilization. Now, this voice that says Geometry Dash is not actually purely for the musical properties of this. It is also because of the fact that this is believed to be the voice of an alien being which spoke to Geometry Dash in his darkest moments and told him why he had to keep going. So there was some level of omnipotence implied in this person who says Geometry Dash in a low voice right before the beat drop. And the beat drop therefore talks about the knowledge that came in from being talked to by a divine being, not necessarily divine but an alien being, which was seen as divine at the time. And this is very similar to, there are other things that have been influenced by this, such as you may think of a rectangle, which is kind of just a stretching of a square, which is used to show respect to Geometry Dash, by saying, we're not trying to copy you and take exactly a square. We want to take that square and make it a rectangle, which was then used as the monolith in the movie A 2001 Space Odyssey. And those were used to show the development of mankind kind of as some sort of a supernatural thing, very similar to how this divine voice interfered in Geometry Dash's time in King Harold's court and inspired him to continue jumping. But otherwise, I would say that the original video is quite accurate. I just want to clarify these few things, and I don't blame the original creator for not knowing these, because these are things that are kind of contentious topics and not things you really cover until you get into the theory behind the history of Joe. So respect to the original creator, and I hope that everyone has a good one, and I will see you later.